So as the season comes to a close, I want to review with you guys some of the most important mechanics in Fortnite right now. If you guys haven't watched any of my videos before, you guys don't really know that my favorite mechanic and the one that I think is the most important is your aim. I think aiming for Fortnite competitive players is the most important thing you can master. And in today's video, I'm going to be covering how you can master proper aiming across all inputs and sensitivities. Now be sure to use code SonataYT in the Fortnite item shop if you guys do want to support me. Let's hop right into it. So to begin, I want to make sure that you guys have the correct sensitivity. So if you guys didn't see it, I recently made a video on how to get the best sensitivity. Check that out in the top right corner. But in general, the summary is that you need to use something called the PSA method in order to find your best sensitivity for keyboard or controller. It works for all platforms. Check that video out. And once you're done with that, be sure to come back to this step and continue following these aim tips. Now next I want to go over some generalized aiming tips. So a lot of people ask me when is the best time to ADS, which stands for aiming down sights. Now in terms of when the best time to ADS is, I'd recommend that you do it in 3 proper instances. First off, it's when you're aiming further down sights. Now this can be in a situation maybe when you're far away from an opponent, maybe when you're trying to find someone. You can ADS and scan the area for where this person may be, and then shoot. Specifically, I want to go over how to ADS with shotguns. Now I would recommend you do this when your opponent is not moving too much, especially when you guys are in a close quarter box, and you want to try to center your crosshair in order to get your headshot. That's the best time to ADS properly. Continually with an assault rifle, you guys are also going to want to ADS pretty much every single time you're trying to get a lot of consistent tags onto people. Your ADS sensitivity is also a bit of a variable when it comes to aiming correctly. I'd recommend that you try to find a really good medium in between a very high ADS sensitivity and a very low ADS sensitivity. It really comes with a lot of experience, and you guys definitely need to try that. Now another question that I get is also when to recenter your mouse. Now this is a section for keyboard and mouse players only, so if you're on controller, skip to the next section. Now in terms of when to recenter your mouse, basically what this means is that if you're aiming at someone and you're slowly running out of mouse room, when should you bring your mouse back to the center of your mouse pad and continue on aiming at other people and other players? Now this one's a bit of a complicated answer. Now, I would recommend you guys do this when you feel that your wrist cannot turn anymore on your mouse pad. With the amount of mouse pad room that you have, you're going to be moving your arm for quite a bit of time, and then at the very end of it, with the micro adjustments you're trying to make, you're going to be moving your wrist. Now, once you start moving your wrist, you should try to get a feel for where you are on your mouse pad without taking your eyes off of the screen, and then just get a feel for it and find out when you're way too close to the edge of the mouse pad and when you should bring your mouse back to the center. Once you do that, you're going to be recentered and able to keep aiming at people or the same player. Now, those are the general aiming tips that I wanted to just get out of the way before we get into the actual aiming practice. Now let's get into the 3 different types of techniques and how to practice each one of them. So obviously a lot of players would recommend that you use Skaavoks, especially if you're on keyboard and mouse. Skaavoks and other aim trainers are an extremely important way to aim train. I'd recommend you do that. However, I'm more focused on actual Fortnite aiming in this video. I think way more than most people that you should definitely be aim training your aim inside of Fortnite more than you should be in Skaavoks. I believe this simply because I feel that in Fortnite you're going to get a better feel for what you're aiming at, and it's just going to become more of a muscle memory with the actual game that you're trying to play. Now continuing on, let's go over the 3 different types of aiming techniques. For those of you guys that don't know, there's going to be tracking, flicking, and target switching. All 3 of these techniques are widely used across various different times, and let's start with tracking. Now this is what I personally struggle with the most. I'll bet that a lot of you guys out there also struggle with tracking a lot. It's essentially where you're going to be moving your mouse around smoothly and trying to track the opponent and predict sudden moves that they may make. Now for tracking, there's 3 things that I would recommend you guys try to do in practice. Number 1 would be to use Aim Duels to the best of your advantage. If you guys don't know, there's a map called Raiders Aim Duels. I'm going to link it in the description. You need to go into this map, you need to queue up, and you need to do various different tracking drills as much as possible. Not only will this really help your SMG and assault rifle aim, it's going to help your overall mouse control as well. On top of doing aim duels regularly, you guys should also be using your Skaavoks tracking drills. Now for those of you that don't know, Skaavoks Aim Trainer is an extremely popular aim trainer within Fortnite. It's widely used by a bunch of pro players, and it has many different scenarios. It's basically the Kovacs of inside Fortnite. Now for Skaavoks, I'd recommend you do the horizontal and vertical tracking drills, along with also doing the bounce 180 and bounce 360. Now all of these drills are going to give you different aspects of tracking. Like in the bounce 180 and 360, you're going to be doing SMG tracking primarily, while in the horizontal and vertical tracking, you're going to primarily be doing assault rifle aim. Not only do I think this is an extremely important skill to develop for overall competitive, because it helps you get your storm surge, it helps you eliminate players by getting hard beams on them. I think that it's generally a good idea if you guys are going to want to try to get eliminations as quick as possible and not waste too much ammo. And then the last thing I would recommend for you guys is to practice your mouse control. Now there are a couple of different things that you guys could do to practice this, but the number 1 thing that I'd recommend is that you guys do certain drills where you're practicing moving your mouse at a very slow and concise pace. I'm going to really quickly be switching to an example of my mouse explaining what exactly this is. So what exactly I'm doing is I'm setting up different dots along my mouse pad, and what you want to try to do is move to each of them and ensure that you move to the exact same spot every single time. I'm going to be moving it in 8 different directions because there's primarily 8 directions you're going to be moving. However, for the certain directions that I'm moving more, I'm going to be moving a little bit further. Not only will this improve your mouse control, it's just a really good drill for hand-eye coordination, and it really improves your brain-to-hand function. But that drill is just one of the drills for tracking. Now let's get into the next section of aiming, which is going to be flicking. Now flicking is an extremely important aspect of aiming for people who shoot with shotguns a lot. I would recommend you guys do a couple of different things to practice flicking. Number 1 is to go back into Skaavoks and practice using the tile frenzy drill. I think that's an extremely important attribute and a really important drill that not enough people are using. What you guys should also try to do is set up bots, maybe in a creative world, maybe go back into Skaavoks and just go to drills and utilize them differently. Set up some zombies or some bots and then try to ADS flick and a non-ADS flick. Now what I mean by this is practice flicking while you ADS into the person, and then also practice flicking while you're not ADSing and just normally shooting. Not only will this build very good muscle memory in terms of flicking, what's important is that you guys practice this a lot. And rather than just going fast the entire time, you guys should really focus on going slow and then gradually speeding up as the muscle memory builds more and more. Flicking is really important for shotgun stuff. It's also important for locking onto people all across the map, especially when you're looking for tags on people flying, people rotating, people doing anything. Flicking is extremely important if you see a large amount of targets in a small amount of area. Which leads me into my last variety of aiming. This is going to be target switching. Now target switching is extremely important because you're going to be practicing and aiming at multiple targets out of the sky, on the ground. This is really useful if you guys are looking for stuff like storm surge, if you guys are trying to beam people flying out of the air. Target switching is the most used aspect of aiming with assault rifles in my opinion. Tracking is obviously important, but target switching is primarily what you guys are going to be doing if you're playing team game modes, which is why I would recommend that you do these following drills in order to improve your target switching. The number 1 drill is definitely going to be the Skaavoks glider tracking. Now this is once again in Skaavoks. You could also do an aim duel with this. Either one of them really works fine. But what's really important is that you practice this on very slow players where they're not moving very much and they're gliding very slowly. However, you want to also use a lot of these players so that you can switch targets much more frequently. And eventually you want to decrease the amount of players and increase the amount of movement to not only improve your target switching, but also improve your tracking alongside that. What this will do is build muscle memory in terms of how to target switch, which places to aim, where to flick, how much to flick, making sure you don't over flick. This is really important for actually succeeding when it comes to target switching. You'll see a lot of times that pro players with higher sensitivity, such as Mr. Savage, they're going to be having much more success when it comes to target switching. They tend to either go a little bit over the area or a little less than they have to go, and then immediately lock onto the player that they're trying to shoot. This is an extremely important attribute for all competitive players. You definitely need to focus on these 3 aspects of aiming, which are tracking, flicking, and target switching. Rewatch the video, understand the drills that I went over if you guys don't get any of it. But yeah, be sure to follow all of these drills and use all of this advice. Anyways guys, that is the video on exactly how to improve your aim in chapter 3. With these new seasons coming out, you guys really need to double down on focusing on how to improve your aim, especially if you guys want to try to get earnings in GoPro eventually. Your aim is something you cannot lack on. I cannot tell you how many good fighters that I see with really bad aim. They have insane piece control, elite building, and they can barely hit a shot. Don't be one of those people. But that's about it for this video guys. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys.